Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Nationals podcast. Today it is the 31st of July, 2022. And on today's show, we'll be discussing the Nationals dropping 2 of 3 this past weekend to the St. Louis Cardinals in what could have been Juan Soto's last homestand. You never know, it could be his last game at any point in time. But discuss the series. Juan Soto has yet to be moved. Josh Bell has not been moved. The Nationals haven't made many, and they're running out of time. Just 2 days now until the trade deadline. Take a look at that and more, and why the Nationals might not move Juan Soto because of the price from a trade that happened this past weekend. All that's coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors once again here on the Locked On Nationals podcast. It is the 31st of July, 2022, and we are brought to you by our friends at Vrooms. Glad to have them on board here. Last day of July. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day. Kind of a weird weekend, right? A weekend where the baseball was being played for the Washington Nationals, but it felt like that wasn't necessarily at center stage, right? Kind of the talk and the chatter around the Nationals is really what we were talking about, right? The Juan Soto situation, the trade rumors surrounding him, Josh Bell being available as well. This was kind of everything that people were talking about this weekend, but nothing happened, right? I mean, we've had some rumors and some talks. There was a report that the Nationals were making one more push, and that was via Hector Gomez, but it sounds like a lot of the Nationals beat reporters can't verify that. Now, Hector has gotten a lot correct. There have been some small details that he has missed as well, but for the most part, Hector Gomez has been generally, I think, reliable when it comes to the Juan Soto situation. So that is what we heard last, that they're going to make an offer. People like Jessica Camarado was on TV yesterday on MLB Tonight saying that, no, I mean, I cannot confirm that. So we'll see what happens. But it sounds like, I believe this was according to Jim Bowden today, that the Juan Soto sweepstakes is down now to 3 teams. It's down to Los Angeles. It is down the Dodgers. It is down to the Padres and also the Cardinals, who were just there this past weekend. So yeah, Jim Bowden said the Padres, the Cardinals, and the Dodgers are the last 3 teams bidding for Juan Soto. Now, we've talked about this before. The one thing that's interesting about this situation is that it can be very foreseeable that the Nationals could hang on to him, and then that pool of suitors might increase once we hit the offseason. What also is becoming increasingly more likely is that whatever team trades for Juan Soto, they probably won't re-sign him. Think about the teams that are in the mix right now for Juan Soto. It's the Padres, it's the Dodgers, it's the Cardinals. All of those teams have really impressive payrolls, and I mean impressive in a positive way, about like positive in terms of how much money that they are spending. But you have to think about that as we kind of look forward here, is that, could these teams actually, and the Dodgers have the number 1 payroll as of 2022 at $205 million. The Mets are they're at second, Yankees third, Phillies fourth, the Padres are fifth. Now, the St. Louis Cardinals are sitting there at 13th, but there are still players that, they are going to have to lock up moving forward if they want to keep some of these guys. Yadier Molina, we'll see what happens. Obviously, probably it's going to be for him. Wainwright comes off the books too. That's going to free up some money for them. But, Jack Flaherty at some point is coming up soon. Tyler O'Neill is going to be coming up there pretty soon. They've got guys. Arenado is on the books, right? Also, Paul Goldschmidt is on the books for the next few seasons. So the Cardinals have the cash, but there are some guys they have to bring. We'll see if they bring them back. But the ones looking at right now are Waino, Yadier Molina, Corey Dickerson, TJ McFarland, Albert Pujols. Obviously, you're not going to see him back. So they're actually they're in a pretty good spot. They're the ones that maybe if they made this trade, you could probably see them re-signing. Teams like the Padres would have a bit more of a challenge to do this. Padres and the Dodgers. We'll go with the Padres first on this situation because they're fifth, and so we'll work our way up. So what they have on the books, they're on the hook next year for $147 million. I don't think that's counting the extension that we believe Joe Musgrove is going to get, but they've got Manny Machado on the hook for 32 for a long time. Eric Hosmer is going to be on the hook. He's got 3 player options coming up in 23, 24, and 25, each for $13 million. Yu Darvish is owed 19 this year and 18 next year. Blake Snell is 13 this year, 16.6 next year. Drew Pomeranz is owed 10 million this year and 10 million next year. Sean Manaea expires this year, so they want to bring him back to let to pay him. Joe Musgrove, obviously, we've heard about that contract. Mike Clevenger is coming off the books this year. Jurickson Profar is an option for $8.3 million. So, and then, you have Haesung Kim, who's got a contract that's going to be running through 2025, it looks like at this point in time. Tatis has his extension that's going to kick in here pretty soon. Nick Martinez has a player option in 23, 24, and 25. So look, man, like this is a team that's got a lot of guys who are going to be coming up contract wise. Now that's good because it allows them to make some sacrifices maybe if they were to sign one, but also at the same time, those are some guys they definitely need on their team. Think about the names that we just mentioned: Mike Clevenger, and Sean Manaea and Joe Musgrove. I mean, like you're gonna, if you want to, excuse me, you want a good rotation. Tough time breathing here. If you want a good rotation, you're gonna have to maintain some of these guys, right? Darvish and Snell, are guys that you've got under contract, but also, you want Musgrove. We resign again. We re-signed Sean Manaea. We re-signed Mike Clevenger. Okay, can you find guys in your farm system bring up? Well, what about what's going to happen there is, look, you might not be able to bring them up because you might trade them away in a Juan Soto trade. So looking at the Padres, they would definitely have a difficult task considering the number, for them next year is $147 million already on the books, but they've got a lot of work to do to make sure they can retain some of these really good pieces of this roster and continue to make that kind of championship push. Because I think that, we never know what can happen. Once we get to the playoffs, obviously we know it's a crapshoot at certain points in time. But I'll tell you what, it still feels like they're a bit behind the Dodgers at this point in time. Would you pick them to beat the Braves? Would you pick them to beat the Mets? I don't know at this point in time. So with that, they have to keep those guys on the team to continue that push. Then obviously that brings us to the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are on the books this year for $261 million, $159 next season. Now, once you might be saying, well, Josh, he wouldn't have to be extended until much later on. But yeah, I mean, we'll see the desire to hit free agency if he goes to a place that he likes. I'm just saying these teams in their ability, it might give them the inside track to keep these guys or to keep a Juan Soto. But, there's no guarantee because that means you have to make the money work. And I mentioned, with the Padres, like those are, Sean Manaea and Joe Musgrove are guys that you'd probably want to get under contract for multiple years that'd be interfering with it. And then you got Darvish, obviously, like I mentioned before, Blake Snell. Sure, they've got 2 more years left. So, it's going to be like timing that up is going to be, potential. It's possible, but difficult, to keep that kind of winning team. The good news, the Dodgers, is David Price is off the books. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts are together going to combine. I mean, honestly, it feels like it's kind of a decent deal for those guys for like around $60 million. Trey Turner is off their books. Justin Turner as a club option. They can get that one off the books. Cody Bellinger is going to be in arbitration. Kershaw's coming off the books. Craig Kimbrell's coming off the books. Chris Taylor is on the hook for a long time. Max Muncy is on the hook for the next the year. They might, he's got $13 million club option. We'll see if they pick that one up. So I will say the Dodgers have a lot of people tied up. They do have a lot of guys coming off the books. I think the one thing, and I mentioned this, the other day, by man Jeff, who does the Locked On Dodgers podcast. He spoke pretty well about this. I think like this is not a deal that he wants the Dodgers to do, and the reason why he said that is because the Dodgers have done such a good job of making trades at the right times, but also think about all the guys that they have brought up through their system that have manifested in the league. Your Julio Urias's of the world, your Tony Gonsolin's of the world, your Walker Bueller's of the world. Think, the Gavin Lux's of the world. I mean, these guys are Dodgers that they brought through the system, and they've done a great job, of developing these guys, and so it's really paid off for them. And they make smart moves like Justin Turner, right? Getting guys, obviously Cody Bellinger is just still 26, another one of those guys that has been there forever. Clayton Kershaw is one of their own as well. So you have to think about it like that. Like they are really strategic with how they do this. And I'm not sure this is a move that is the most Dodger-like move that we see. Sure, getting star players is a move, but once again, getting that Trey and Max trade last year, they didn't have to give up a whole heck of a lot. Two guys who were blocked in Josiah Gray and also in Keibert Ruiz. That was a pretty good, that's pretty good for them, right? That's pretty good. And obviously Gerardo Carrillo and Donovan Casey. But once again, I think it's a very, very good point that Jeff makes that, hey, this is maybe not the most Dodger-like move. Now, I mean, more of a Padres type move, but emptying the farm, a farm that's been, that's just kept on giving for them and kept them in contention amidst their stars as well. But giving up on the part of this system that really fills in so many of those spots, I think it's the point Jeff's making. I could be wrong about this, but I believe the point Jeff was really making is like that. I'm not sure if that's the right move for them to do, especially knowing you're not going to re-sign Trey. You got, you want to fill in that gap, or do you give up all the guys who could be filling in those gaps with, with a Juan Soto, right? Because like I mentioned, they can make the money work. They got a lot of guys coming off the books, but also it's a lot of spots you have to fill. And when you've got such a good farm system like the Dodgers always have, do you want to give up those guys who are really good at filling those spots historically, just to and look, once again, they make good veteran moves as well. But do you want to give up those guys to get Juan Soto and maybe not even get him, maybe not even get him for, in the next part of his career, just the 3 years? Is it worth it? Maybe it is for Dodgers. Maybe it is for their fans, their franchise. But I think that's something you have to consider here is, the long-term effects. Like, do you want to cap your window? Maybe if you lose Soto, start rebuilding that then again, but like you're giving up a lot and you're not sure where you're going to be. So there's a whole lot of calculus here. And I think it's a whole lot of people now assessing like how much is Juan Soto really worth? Right. I think that is something that you have to think about, because I'm going to read from Max Raymond's article from District on Deck. He actually had a really good piece that came out today. I'm going to pull it up now to make sure I can get it. I can get this correct, but talked about the Luis Castillo trade and how much. I mean, you think about it, it's a hefty amount that they gave up for Luis Castillo, them being the Seattle Mariners. Marte, Arroyo, Stout, and more. They give up those guys, the Mariners do. And Max's point really through this is like, all right, if Luis Castillo is worth that, now obviously context everything, right? They need an ace, they got an ace, sure, whatever. But like, Juan Soto is worth just as much as Luis Castillo is to a lot of these teams, and if not more. So if Luis Castillo is setting the market right there, imagine what Juan Soto is, and I think Max is trying to say here, like, hey, is it's going to be hard for somebody to put together a package that's, it's much, much better than what the Mariners gave for Castillo. And we're talking about a guy that we also, we believe to be a better player. So that's something we have to watch too. But, I've been bouncing back and forth, guys. Last time I talked to him, I said 50-50. I felt like 70-30 on Friday that he was going to get traded, 70% yes. I'm kind of back towards 50-50 now. I think that's where I'm at. I still believe the most logical thing to happen is that the Nats get new ownership and they give it one more run. And if they don't, people can still trade for him, because here's the thing. The group of suitors will go up. You still get 2 more years of Juan Soto, right? I know it's not as many as 3, but still you get 2 years of Juan Soto and the ability to get the inside track to re-sign him. So while we're down to 3 teams right now, once again, I think this offseason, what you could see happen is these teams talk amongst themselves. These teams, have this conversation. Okay, should we go for this? Is this something that makes sense for us? Does it make sense for us in the long term, the short term? Like, which category do we fall into? And I think when you do that, I think you're going to get more suitors, not less. I think because we're so capped with time, like you see this thing all the time, in whatever sport, right? The Mavericks have become a potential landing spot for Kevin Durant. The Heat, the more time goes on, the more teams that can emerge. And so if you give them that full offseason, give them that more time, I don't think the Dodgers and Padres and Cardinals are going to go away. If anything, a team like the Cardinals might think, hey, we need to make that move. I mean, hell, you get a situation where the Astros win the World Series, and so the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Cardinals all think we need to make that move. This is a move we have to make. We came up short. We got to do something to get the job done here. Right. And so, if one of those teams wins, sure, they might think, okay, we don't have to do this. Or they might say, oh, we want now we can. We've won. So let's just, let's go get Juan Soto and put butts in seats for the next 15 years. There are many ways to approach this. I still think patience, in my opinion, is the best way to do it. I don't think it hurts the haul all that much. I really don't believe that. So to me, I think it's going to be patience that the Nationals show. All right, one word from our sponsors, and then we'll get in on this weekend's series against the Cardinals. So on today's show, we are brought to you by LinkedIn. Folks, did you guys know that at LinkedIn, they make it easier to find people that want to take your job? LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb today to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, so the Nationals 3-game set, as I mentioned, over the weekend with the St. Louis Cardinals. They won one. Their record is now 35-68. They are still the worst team in baseball. 340 winning percentage. They are 30 games back of the Mets, 27 back of the Braves. They are 21.5 back of the Phillies. They are 12.5 back of the Marlins. They're 16-38 at home. They're 19-30 on the road. They have a 393 runs scored, 561 runs against, the minus 168 run differential. That is the worst in the league. They've lost one. They're 5-5 in their last 10 games. So how did they go over the course of the weekend? It was a weird weekend once again. The Nationals, just it wasn't really about the baseball, and I'll be honest. I was too consumed with Twitter to be honest. I was checking Twitter periodically. I really just try to kind of step away from stuff this weekend just because the Juan Soto stuff has been absolutely so crazy. Anibal Sanchez gets left in way too long in game number 1. 5 2/3, 6 hits, 6 runs. They're all earned. 2 walks, 4 Ks, 2 home runs, and 108 pitches. I felt like I felt like that was going to be, somewhere where they just wanted to get some more, just wanted to give him some more, or wanted to save the bullpen kind of that situation, right? Uncertain weekend, just get some more length out of your star, but they pushed him too far. Actually, doesn't really matter at this point anyway. Miles Michaelis had a really nice start. 7 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 1 walk, and 4 Ks in a 6-2 win in the first game of the series. In the second game, this was a fun back and forth contest where the Nationals rallied and came from behind and won this game by a score of 7-6. It's just nice to see moments like that from across, like the weekend when the Nationals were as bad, have been as bad as they are. But they rally. They were down 4-1 at one point, and then Nelson Cruz, up in that trade value. Yadiel Hernandez drives in a run. Josh Bell with the 2-run go ahead home run in the bottom of the 7th, 404 feet that scores Soto and Hernandez. The Nationals hang on the rest of the way. The pitching was not excellent in this game. Carl Edwards got a little roughed up in his 1/3 of an inning, but the rest of the guys, Harvey, Erasmo Ramirez, and Kyle Finnegan, an inning and 2/3 to get the save in the end of this game. He's really pitching well. Paulo Espino was pretty meh. And the Nationals were able to get to Dakota Hudson early, which is really good. So the Nationals, I was pretty impressed with that effort coming from behind. We really just don't see that too often. And then today was a pretty stale performance, have to be honest. The Nationals in the final game of this series drop to the Cardinals. They lose by a score of 5-0. Josiah Gray was, it seems like he just gets a decision every single one of the starts. This was not a great Josiah Gray day. 5 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, all earned, 1 homer, 6 Ks, and 2 walks. So, got a lot of the elements of a Josiah Gray performance. The Nats bats were quiet though. Palante was fantastic. 5 hits, 8 Ks, 1 walk. And then Helsley comes in and gets the save gets the finish in the end of this game. So that's how it went down for the Nationals. All right. One more word from our sponsors, and we will get out of here. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. You go to BetOnline today. When you guys do, sign up. It's free to do. It's 110% worth it. So make sure you guys do that. They've got odds for NASCAR, for NBA, for NHL, for college football, for NFL, obviously for MLB, NASCAR, F1, boxing, MMA, all that stuff you guys can find at BetOnline and betonline.net today. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LO_Nationals. You guys can find me at @JoshNeighbors_. Find the show wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.